Hi everyone, welcome to the Sustainable Supply Chain Podcast. My name is Tom Raftery, and with me on the show today, I have my special guest, Erin. Erin, welcome to the podcast. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you. My name is Erin Gilchrist, and I work for IntelliShift. I am the VP of Fleet Evangelism, which is a fun title. Thank you so much for having me today, Tom.
Fantastic. And who or what are IntelliShift, Erin?
So IntelliShift is a fleet intelligence company. So we have software and hardware that is proprietary to IntelliShift that helps fleets drive safety and efficiency from one single pane of glass. So, fleet managers like myself are accustomed to, we call swivel chair management, where we're trying to bring data from multiple sources and make sense of it. So we at IntelliShift help fleet managers do that every day so they can wake up and identify yesterday, today, and tomorrow's problems in a single, simple to use, but powerful platform.
Okay. And you said your title is Evangelist of Fleet Management. What does that consist of?
Yes. So I know sometimes I abbreviate and say VP of Fleet, but it's really VP of Fleet Evangelism. And what that means is I get to do stuff like this, right? I was a longtime director of fleet for a large national fleet here in the US. And I gained a lot of knowledge and experience over that time. And so what I get to do with that intellectual property is share it now on my podcast, which is Straight Talk on Fleet. And at IntelliShift, I get to be an internal voice of the customer. So I'm our source for truth at IntelliShift to make sure that everything we do inside of our business has the fleet manager and the safety and operations managers in mind. And then the third thing I get to do, which is really fun, is I get to be a consultant for our prospects and our customers to help them sort of realize, blueprint, outline, whatever you want to call it, their safety and efficiency goals, and help them figure sort of a path to get there with IntelliShift, with policy, program management. I get to help them with change management. So it's like being a fleet manager without a fleet, which is a lot less stressful. For sure.
Nice. And this is the Sustainable Supply Chain Podcast. So obviously we're going to be talking about sustainability. And obviously, the only way to make fleet sustainable is to go all EV, right?
No, Tom, that is not true. That is not true at all. And if any fleet managers listening, they're secretly, screaming or outwardly screaming like, wait, I'm not ready to do that. No, I think, the thing that I want fleet managers to really hear today is that there's really no silver bullet to building a sustainability plan for your fleet, to working sustainability into the fiber of your organization and your fleet every day. There's no one single approach that sort of gets you there. So certainly not all EV, but EVs are great, but there's lots of challenges still, and it's still sort of fairly new, so to speak, when you think about, trying to reduce GHG emissions in your fleet. There's just so many other great ways to do it. So,
yeah. And I obviously asked that facetiously, and I am an EV owner myself of many years. So I am a big EV fan. But I guess we should take a step back, Erin, and how do you define sustainability in fleet management?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when I think about sustainability in fleet management, I don't think just about the sustainability of the fleet itself. I selfishly think about, because of my experience, organizational sustainability, fleet sustainability, and then as a fleet leader, how do we in our career, because I think so many times organizations look at the fleet as a cost center, not a profit generator. So I talk about sustainability for us as leaders too. How do we stay relevant and sustainable in our careers? And then how do we carry that over into our fleets to make them sustainable or green? And I think to answer your question directly, sustainability for fleets is really reducing our carbon footprint. So and a lot of folks do think today that means, okay, we've got to switch out every asset in our fleet. No, we really don't have to do that. So it's really being able to lay out a plan, execute on that plan, and then being able to measure the effects of your efforts on GHG emissions, reductions in consumption of fuel, whatever types of fuels you're using. So really being able to measure what you're doing over time is how I see fleet sustainability.
Okay, so for the measurement, you need to have some kind of a telematics platform or similar in place so that you can baseline before you start and then track reductions, hopefully, in emissions over time.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, in today's environment, either vehicles have onboard technology built in, or we're going to add some technology to different types of assets. No matter what we run, there's technology that we can bring on board that's going to help us collect the data that we need to, again, establish that baseline, like you said, Tom, and then to be able to track our progress over time. Telematics, you mentioned, I mean, what a great tool, because not only does that help you track your progress for sustainability, but that's a safety and efficiency play. Data from telematics is rich, and there's so many things you can do with it. And tracking your sustainability efforts is just one, but telematics is a great place to start. So if you're a fleet thinking, how do I start down this path, and you don't have anything on the vehicles today, it is an easy transition. The only thing that's really not easy is there's a lot of data generated. And so it gets to be an overwhelming thing for fleet managers. Like, what am I going to do with all this data? And that's where partners like IntelliShift and others can help you make sense of it all. Take it in, clean it, digest it, and then create a story that you can tell, whether it's you're reporting, you have government required reporting, you're reporting internally, you're reporting to shareholders, whatever the case may be. There's a great way to kind of consolidate and then in turn share data out with the different communities in which you're working in. But telematics is a great place to start for sure.
And if I am a fleet manager, how high up is sustainability on my list of priorities?
Okay, I'm not sure, Tom, but it should be, it should be here. And I say that because if it's not, then that means there's things that you're not doing in your fleet that could improve your overall efficiency, safety, and cost. So I think if you're not thinking about safety and sustainability, I'll put safety here. And because
just be aware, Erin, not everybody's watching this on video. So in fact, the
okay.
vast majority of people who consume this do so via audio only.
Okay, so listeners, think about safety being number one, sustainability being number two, and then whatever else is on your list, whether that's, hey, we want to be more efficient, we want to improve our route optimization. I mean, whatever your top sort of three initiatives or goals are as a fleet operator, fleet manager, fleet director, whatever, you cannot get there. You'll never get there, wherever there is, but you'll never be on the right path until you focus on safety and sustainability, because they do go hand in hand. And how that happens is the technology and the data that you need to operate a safe fleet also is the same technology that you need to operate a sustainable fleet, to have the data that you need to report on sustainability efforts, as well as data that you can use to identify assets in your fleet that are ripe for replacement to EV or any other type of alt fuel vehicle technology. So that's why I say sustainability and safety are king, because you need technology and you need data to get there, and they all work together.
Right. And I think it's an underappreciated point as well, not just in fleets, but for example, in manufacturing. If you go on an efficiency project, you want to reduce wastage and you're rolling out efficiency, you want to get costs down. Mm-hmm. One of the outcomes of that is going to, by definition, be a sustainability win. So
absolutely,
these projects that can be cost reduction, can be efficiency, can be waste reduction, they generate sustainability wins. So it's. I mean, you said safety, sustainability, efficiency, route optimization, but both efficiency and route optimization are also sustainability, no?
Oh, absolutely. Because anytime we can optimize our routes, then we know that we are reducing miles driven and we're operating our fleets only when and where we need to. And
Mhm.
that is really cutting out all that waste. Drivers making stops they shouldn't be making, going off route to, visit someone in the middle of their workday that's, 40 kilometers or miles out of the way. I mean, there's so many different things that I've seen in my years as a fleet manager that once we've gotten those things in control, we've seen massive reductions in miles driven, which again, then reduces your consumption, your GHG emissions, and it's just a snowball effect, a good one. And I always think this word like sustainability or greening our fleet, people look at that as like a buzzword. It's not a buzzword. It's a strategy. It's like a mission. It should be a mission. It should be a vision and goal for every safety and fleet leader out there should be thinking about their impact on the environment. I mean, I
Mhm.
can't imagine whether I have 10 vehicles or 10,000 that I'm not thinking about how I can minimize my impact on the environment. It's just such if we all thought that way, you can imagine the effect that it would have on emissions over, across the planet for if all fleets and organizations were making sustainability a priority for them,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
just in their fleets.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, emissions, when we say emissions, we typically think carbon emissions. But of course, with typically diesel fleets, you also get SOx and NOx and PM and other kinds of emissions as well, which are also detrimental to people's health, which also we should be trying to reduce.
Absolutely. And I think when you mention, I think whether it's in plants or warehousing or distribution, and you think about all these different ways that we can do energy audits so every organization, you have your fleets and all of your assets and all of your real estate. I mean, organizations should be thinking about sustainability in all those places. But in fleet, it's not just about reducing emissions. It is, but it's how you get there. So I think about when you mention like warehousing and distribution and supply chain, I think about an opportunity for fleets to look at, the vehicles they're operating, of course, the upfitting that they're putting on those vehicles. Is it reusable and recyclable? Is it lightweight? I mean, think about aluminum going from there are so many different types of builders out there for truck bodies, but when I went in my fleet, I went from steel framed and some other types of composites, and I moved to aluminum. The weight reduction was significant. So I think about, and then the longevity, and I could move that body from chassis to chassis, and it would live for 3 or 4 chassis lives. And, think about the reduction in waste.
Mm.
We didn't have to build a new body. It was lightweight. And so the chassis could operate more efficiently. So we're not burning as much fuel. So reducing, reusing, recycling is a great part of a sustainability plan for fleets. Think about all the things that you can reuse to reduce weight, to reduce waste, and then also what materials are we using to lightweight our assets as much as possible. And then, a great story there too is sometimes if you're, think about operating a van fleet and you have some shelving and upfitting in your van in order to make that a mobile sort of workspace for your technician or your driver, going to a lighter weight material might drop the weight of your van enough so that you could get out of DOT regulated types of things, which is a lot for fleets, and it's a headache, right? But
Yeah.
it's important and it's necessary. So lightweighting has some other benefits, not just green, but you might have less regulatory stuff to deal with out there, fleet managers.
Nice, nice. And you've used this term sustainability plan a couple of times now. So for people who might be unaware, what do you consider a sustainability plan? What would it consist of?
I think it really starts with you got to get that buy-in in your organization. So if there are, operations and safety and fleet managers out there listening today, if you're not collaborating internally with people like legal and operations and your partners in purchasing and supply chain in your organizations, certainly just getting those teams together so that everyone's represented and start talking about sustainability with these experts you have right at your disposal. And if you're not partnering with them today, it probably means that they don't know what you're up to and they don't know what's important for fleet. So be a leader in your organization and bring those groups together and start talking about what sustainability is and what it could mean for your organization, but certainly what it can mean for your fleet in the way of cost reduction. Talk the language of your organization who sees you as a cost center and say, hey, know what? We're really profit generators here because we can reduce our fleet costs such that profit increases every time we go out to a customer. So I think it's getting that group together and getting them on your team and creating that team, getting that buy-in. Then it's really developing like a vision, scope, and goals for your specific business. What's really attainable? And so when everybody is kind of saying, okay, yeah, we need this, we need to do this, how much do we think we can, let's say for the fleet in particular, how much do we think we can reduce miles driven or gallons consumed or whatever? And start to scope out that and create a goal for yourself. So in year one, we want to do X, right? And then build out those key elements of a plan alongside, your partners in this space. So you're going to need KPIs, reporting, and analytics, right? So if you're a fleet leader, you're using something, right, to manage your costs. Maybe that's just internal. Maybe you have telematics and you're measuring different things. But get those partners, supplier partners, on that team of yours that I mentioned with your internal team and start developing sort of this. We know we have this goal. How are we going to manage it? What are the things that we're going to do that are attainable? How are we going to measure them? And how long do we think that'll take? And then really just being open to change, innovation, and evolution, because I think when fleet managers and fleet leaders start digging into this idea of a fleet sustainability plan, they're going to find that maybe there are some gaps, either in their reporting or their ability to gather data. So be open to the fact that you may need to gather that data. And in a way to do that, you might need to invest. And that investment will always be worth your while because you're going to be able to use that in so many ways, and not just to track your sustainability efforts and goals and initiatives, but you're going to be able to use that to increase the efficiency of your fleet, probably improve the vehicle life of your fleet. And in this day and age, that's really important because fleets are being forced to operate aging assets because they can't get the proper replacements for them due to supply chain constraints. And so when you think about this tech is really going to help you accomplish many of your goals outside of this sustainability plan that you're putting together. And I do talk about sustainability a lot on my podcast. And I've done an episode 3 of my podcast was on sustainability. But I think another great one, because they go hand in hand, Tom, is change management.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it really takes a lot of effort to get the organization thinking differently about you as a fleet leader, your contributions to the profit of the organization. And so I think it's episode 5 where I talk about project and change management. And I think that's a great one to kind of lead into sustainability so that fleet leaders can wrap their head around, how do I do this? Who do I need to talk to? What do I need to talk about? What am I needing to measure? So those are just a couple of episodes that, we can drop when we drop this episode and let people know that they can dig in if they want. And then they can always just reach out and say, okay, Erin, I heard this podcast. What did you mean by whatever? I'm happy to talk to folks about it.
Great. And we mentioned in passing as well, fuels. So there's diesel, there's petrol in some instances. You Americans call it gas, I'm guessing. There's gas
we do.
as well.
Call it gas.
There's actually natural gas powered vehicles. There's biofuel powered vehicles. And of course, there's EVs and hydrogen fuel vehicles. Where do you think people are on that kind of spectrum right now? And what should the ultimate goal be?
Yeah, I think really it's looking at your operation. How do you operate? Where do you operate? How many miles do your drivers drive a day? You got to look at all these factors and say, what in that spectrum kind of fits for our organization? And maybe, in a city, for example, the bus fleet is right for natural gas. They have the real estate to carry it, where a van fleet does not. They've got upfitting and things, and they cannot fit tanks on board their vehicles. I tried that, and it was
Right.
tough. It was really tough because not only did I take up that real estate, but then it was just kind of other challenges around how an operator who goes 100 miles a day might access that fuel and do that easily like they do with their gas and just kind of show up with a card, pay, fuel, and get out of there in a reasonable amount of time. And that goes for EVs as well. So I think it's really segmenting your fleet out, understanding, because a lot of fleets operate a variety of vehicle classes.
Sure.
So you could think that so for me in my former fleet, the sedan fleet, what a great way to transition to hybrids and EVs, right?
Yep.
These folks could maybe charge at home. They don't have that range anxiety that a technician might have who is doing 100 to 150 miles a day and is getting paid for how many customers they see that day. So we got to make sure that they're able to get from customer to customer. So again, for me, it goes back to what data do you have? So you can evaluate your current fleet or multiple fleets within your fleet, evaluate each and every profile sort of in your fleet, how they operate, where they go, how many miles they drive, and looking at that data and identifying, hey, if I want to step into this, how do I do that successfully and minimize the impact to disruption on my operation? So I really encourage people to start down this path if you're not down it already, and really start with something that might be not easier, but less difficult from a change management perspective to implement. So, I think if you have sedans in your fleet, look at EV, right? And again, there's a lot of great resources out there for fleet leaders who are looking to be more sustainable and looking to get into this whole spectrum of alternative fuels and alternative fuel technologies. And if you don't have a partner in that, like I would say a fleet management company would be a great partner. There's government agencies who have great information, who've already been digging in. It's good to understand sort of what's coming down the pike in terms of not only the tech and the vehicle and the types of vehicles that might work for your fleet, but it's good to understand sort of what's coming down in terms of regulations. Those are ever changing though. So that's kind of fun to navigate. But again, partner with your fleet management company. And if you don't have one, there's a lot of other great resources out there, or give me a ring. I can help you kind of navigate that space and figure out, hey, where should I start? Because while there's a lot of options, there may only be a 2 or 3 that would work for, your fleet out there, fleet manager. So yeah.
Yeah, good point. Because fleets vary enormously in terms of the kind of miles they do, the trips they take, even within a fleet, as you pointed out. Yeah, no, it's a good point. And the other thing is, the shift to a new type of fuel, whether it's EVs or whatever, it's not something that's going to happen overnight anyway for any fleet, because, unless you're starting from zero, if you already have a fleet in place, you're not going to replace them all in one go. I don't know how many are typically what would be a percentage of turnover of fleet on an annual basis, but it's probably, 10%?
Yep, I was going to say that's a great number. That's typically what fleets are doing. So, you're right. This isn't something that can happen overnight. So, dipping your toe in the water is, starting down that research path, and certainly data analytics to kind of identify what might be a great place for you to start.
Yeah, because if you're class 8s that are doing, 500 miles a day, it's not something you're going to want to switch to EV tomorrow. But if you have delivery trucks that are doing 100 miles a day or 160 kilometers a day, that's a no-brainer.
Right.
So,
and there's, and as time goes on, there are more and more types of vehicles available for different classes that fleets can look into. So again, I think the key is, shy of continuing this process of turning vehicles over from gas or whatever into something more sustainable, I think also looking at all those other opportunities to reduce the number of miles you're driving. I think one of the biggest drivers of inefficiency is vehicle operation. So, if you're not managing your drivers behind the wheel, you're missing the boat on, it's like throwing dollars into an open fire because these drivers, Tom, you and I could make the same trip and you could make it a lot more efficiently than I could and save lots of money.
Oh no, I have a very heavy right foot, I'm afraid.
I'm a work in progress. I'll just say that. But it's all about what happens behind the wheel that either really drives efficiency in the vehicle or tanks it. So my husband jokes with me all the time because we have vehicles that we track on an app, right? How we drive. And he teases me because he consistently gets better fuel economy than I get because I say he drives like a grandma. And he says that I have a lot of room for improvement in terms of my, vehicle operation. So I think addressing behind the wheel behavior is a really great step to sustainability. Obviously, getting your vehicles maintained on time. And on time is an interesting word because it doesn't mean you have to follow a prescribed schedule. Your vehicles will tell you when they need serviced. So don't over-service them, but don't under-service them. There is a sweet spot and you can get there. So I think, just this idea of monitoring driver behavior, monitoring where people are operating the assets to make sure that they're only driving when and where they need to, maintaining vehicle assets on time. Those are just a few things that you can do that are fundamental to fleet management. And oh wait, I'm leaving out a really big one, Tom.
Okay.
Is don't put vehicles on the road without inspecting them every day. I mean, for goodness sakes, you can do a digital inspection on any device and you can look at that vehicle fitness and make sure that vehicle is fit for the day. If it's not fit for the day, you've got to address those things because they will drive your efficiency down in a heartbeat. So address those tires. Do they need changed? Do they need inflated? So inspecting, maintaining, managing driver behavior, all great ways to dramatically and instant gratification, right? To instantly improve the efficiency of your vehicle, which then in turn drives down that consumption number. So, you don't have to change the world in a day. Just, the basics of fleet management, the fundamentals of fleet management can drive sustainability efforts today, for sure.
If your tires need to be changed, it's a pretty straightforward exercise. Can do it quite quickly.
Of course.
If your drivers need to be changed in terms of their driving practices, not quite as easy. And I'm sure, you get a bit of pushback if you start trying to implement some of these practices. So is that the most challenging aspect of fleet management?
I'm going to say yes. And also, if you would ask any fleet manager what their top, challenge is and has always been, it's probably this word compliance. So they mean getting operations leaders who manage the drivers and getting the drivers to do all the fleet stuff we need them to do is a big challenge. But I would challenge fleet managers, hey, we'll make it easier for them and they'll do it. Give them KPIs that are directly related to their operational KPIs and they'll do it. If you tell an operations manager that, Austin, Texas is doing $3.54 fleet cost per customer served, for example.
Okay.
And then you have Salt Lake City at $11 per, a fleet cost per customer served. And Salt Lake's like, well, what are they doing in Austin? Then you could say, oh, well, they're not idling. They are monitoring their driver's behavior and they're actually coaching the driver when they see the behavior, get out of whack. And the drivers are making the improvements. Oh, and they're getting their vehicles maintained on time, Salt Lake City. So it's then very easy for that fleet manager to say, hey guys, if you do these things well, and guess what? I'm going to put tools and tech on the vehicle to make it easy for you to do it, and driver scorecards and digital inspections and yada, yada. Then, and you show them the impact that can have on their profit margin, they'll listen. They'll listen. It's just about making it about them. What's in it for them? And I think that whole WIFM thing, what's in it for me, is a great communication strategy for organizations with fleets. Show the driver and really show the driver and really show the driver's managers and leaders what's in it for them. What do they get out of it? Well, I get home safe every day and my vehicle runs and it doesn't break down out of the blue on me, and I can get to all my customers and I can get paid. And then the operations manager is like, I'm minimizing my fleet cost. I'm maximizing my profit margin every time I send a tech out to clean carpet or, whatever, do cable work or all these vocational things. It helps them focus on, if I do fleet right, I can make more money. So, it's kind of like tie these things together, guys, and then they'll be your best friends out there. And then you can really serve your customer, because in my mind, the customer for the fleet team is operations. And so if you can show operations that you can help them run an efficient and safe fleet, and that it'll improve their profit margin, then you guys are all going to be like holding hands and singing Kumbaya, right? That's fun to think about, right? But you can get there. It's about communication and collaboration for sure.
Okay, so let's give a hypothetical. I'm a fleet manager of a fleet of, 1,000, 5,000 vehicles, whatever it is, in, let's say, Austin, Texas, seeing as you used Austin a few minutes ago. And I've been tasked with making my fleet more sustainable. And we've never had a sustainability project in the company before. What are my first 5-10 steps? What do I need to do?
Okay, so again, I'll go back to if you don't have a team inside your organization, you're dead in the water, right? So first, get people together. Again, I'll use the example of you're going to need legal and you're going to need people, so HR, right? Because you need to make sure that you communicate everything correctly and you're following all the rules. And they'll help you write policy, or I'll help you write policy too. So, legal and fleet and operations and purchasing and supply chain and fleet. So get a group together. That's step one. And talk about, okay, we have to reduce, let's say the metric you're using for sustainability in your fleet is your fuel consumption. That's typical, right? So we got to reduce our fuel consumption in our fleet. So how are we going to do that? And then it's you as the fleet leader kind of leading that conversation saying, hey guys, there's no one way to do it. We have to start with, do we have control over our routes? Do we know where people are and what they're doing? Do we know how they're driving behind the wheel? Are we compliant on preventative maintenance for our fleets? Are we getting fuel at the right price at the right time? And do we have leakage? Okay. And if someone says, we don't have any leakage, you have leakage. You definitely have leakage. There's pilferage, there's fraud, just know, especially if you have a 5,000 unit fleet. So think about those things that you can step into that will reduce your consumption of fuel and start down that path. Okay, so pick 2 or 3 things you're going to tackle first. And then say, okay, do we have the data to tackle those things? If we don't, we need to get it. So what's out there? And then you can really lean on the fleet industry and other fleet leaders and see what other people are doing. If you're really that green and you really don't know what's out there, there are a lot of great resources to ask and see what's out there, but you're definitely going to need telematics on your vehicles so that you can manage and monitor all those things I just talked about. And then develop your vision, scope, and goals, right? And then determine how much progress do we want to make? How are we going to get there? How are we going to measure it? And then I think last but not least, then think about, do we need to, at this moment, in this first year of creating a sustainable fleet, do we need to switch out any of our vehicles? Do we need either newer assets that are going to be more efficient, or do we just need to better monitor the behavior and the kind of fleet operational stuff for the fleet we have? And if your answer is, hey, we probably have some vehicles that are ripe to switch out, then, as you're implementing the things that you can do now, then start to step into what's out there in the marketplace. Can we do an EV pilot? Can we pilot any other types of fuels or alt fuel technologies in our fleet to start to move the needle a little quicker? So that would be my advice. Just don't try to eat the whole elephant, just one bite at a time. And it can be done it probably can be done, at least major steps, with what you have now. And then if you don't have telematics, then that's sort of a next step. And then you can really use the telematics data to dig into those larger steps, like switching to EVs and other things that can, again, further build on your sustainability plan. And I think that plan should start out, hey, what's our first year goal? And then what's our 3 and 5 and 7 and 10 year goal? And that'll grow and change. Just stick with it. Build a plan, stick with it, let it grow and evolve. It's a living and breathing thing. If it's a good project, it's alive, and which means it's going to grow and change, right? So that's kind of a mindset for orgs. Yeah.
Cool. Erin, we're coming towards the end of the podcast now. Is there any question I did not ask that you wish I had, or any aspect of this we haven't touched on that you think it's important for people to be aware of?
I think the only other thing is, again, I know I touched on fleets being able to look at their data. What are they, how are they managing all the data? And I think that, when I talked about what IntelliShift does, I think that what we're helping fleets do is find an easier way to identify issues, insights, trends that are dragging down safety and efficiency for fleets. So if you're listening and you feel like you're that swivel chair management fleet manager who really needs to hire a full-time analyst just to deal with all the data that's coming in off of fuel cards, off of vehicles, from devices, I would encourage you to look for ways and means to steward your data better. So data stewardship is a really important thing when you're trying to drive safety, efficiency, but certainly sustainability. So, do yourself a favor and try to get that data consolidated so you don't miss anything. Because I think the thing that kept me up the most at night as a fleet manager before I kind of found my happy place was all the things that are going on that I didn't know about it. Like, what's my next big risk?
Right.
And in today's world, we know that next big risk, and it's because it's present so much, at least here in the US, is distracted driving. So it's not about if our drivers are going to get in an accident, it's when. And then what do we have on board to protect them? So I think all these things go hand in hand. It's just getting that technology that helps you sleep better at night because you have your data in one place and you can easily identify the things you need to tackle every day and in the next week or month or a year, and create new projects around those things with the right partnership. So that's what I would share is just, if you find yourself struggling to do that, then, look out there, see what's out there, find a partner who can help you make your life easier. Because once you can make it easier for your organization to get on board with the fundamentals of fleet, then you're going to win all around. For sure.
Makes sense. Yeah. Cool.
Erin,
if people would like to know more about yourself or any of the things we discussed in the podcast today, where would you have me direct them?
I would just say link in with me. I'm Erin Gilchrist on LinkedIn. You can find me there. You can also find Straight Talk on Fleet, which is my podcast. And you can find that anywhere you listen or watch content. So yeah, it's a lot of fun topics and maybe we can chat, DM me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to help you start kind of creating a vision or mission around sustainability for your organization and for your fleet.
Tremendous. Great. Erin, that's been really interesting. Thanks a million for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you. It's been so much fun, Tom. I look forward to seeing you again.
Likewise.